Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Resellers Podcast with Daily Refinement. This is also the high-level call this week, and I heard the best analogy ever when it comes to wealth building that I've ever heard yesterday, and I want to share it with you guys. So I've always heard that the first 100,000 is the hardest, and then after that starts to get easier, but I didn't understand really the concept behind that. And I wish somebody had taught this to me when I was 13 years old, 14 years old, because the first 100,000 is the hardest. And what that means is in the very, very beginning, every single dollar makes a huge difference because there's no momentum. You're starting from no knowledge, no process, don't know anything. When I first started reselling, I didn't even know you could sell used items. This is in 2016. I didn't know that you could even sell used items on eBay. I thought it was only brand new collectibles or collectibles. I didn't know people sold used things. When I first started using eBay, I bought like a couple car parts. I bought some electronics. I bought a couple toys. I bought some sneakers. I never one time purchased something pre-owned, right? So jumping into an industry where you know nothing, no momentum, no connections, no systems, it's really, really, really slow at the beginning. But after you get the first $100,000, and I think it's totally different at this level, and it's also around 20 sales a day. If you get to the point where you get 20 sales a day, every day, everything is so much different because you have enough money to afford external space. You probably have one connection or more. You probably have a route that you're used to. You have a way that you take photographs because you can't accidentally do 20 sales a day. It takes a system, it takes planning, it takes space. You have to do a lot of things right to get to 20 sales a day. After that, though, it's much easier to go from 20 to 21, 20 to 22, 20 to 25. It's just doing a little bit more of what you're doing. Most people listening right now, though, you don't need to do what you're currently doing. You need to do something different, right? And that's where it becomes super duper challenging. Plus, once you have 100,000 saved, that money works for you. If you have it invested in even a mutual fund or a treasury bond, you're going to make 4% a year. That is $4,000 a year without doing anything. So when your store is at 1,000 to 2,000 items and you're selling 20 a day, that means your 1,000 to 2,000 items are like the Fortune 500. This is actually a really good example. If you had 500 items in your store and you were selling 5 to 10 a day, you probably have all Fortune 500 things, all fantastic, great items. People want them. They're doing well. Good track history right now, right? It's not like a really good item, but it was popular 20 years ago. That's not as good as something that's popular right now. So if you're looking at the Fortune 500, 20 years ago, I think like 300 companies were different. Even in the top, right? They switch out constantly. So this first 500 to 2,000 items in your store is so hard. There's a lot of friction because you don't know what you're buying. You don't have the right process. Even if you buy something good, you might list it improperly and it doesn't sell. You might have something good and list it too cheap and it ends up not selling very well. So I think it's really, really important to understand how difficult this first 500 to 2,000 items is. The first $100,000 in savings, very, very difficult to do. And every single dollar counts. I think that's what taught me the most in all my experiments through the years is my Reseller Nirvana store, starting with no money, having to wait until something sold to climb out of that. Literally selling stuff to make 50 cents profit so I have enough money to buy another item. That is what you need for the first 100,000. Now, here's the thing that's kind of interesting. The people who do that, the people who get to the point where they save $100,000, for most resellers, they may never get there. But for those that do, usually that muscle is so strong that they don't stop behaving that way. They just continue making sure every single dollar counts. And if you already have the momentum, so you went from 0 to 20 with no momentum, no help, you figured it out on your own, but now you have $100,000 on your side, so you have peace of mind. You have a year for most people, that's at least 1 year of emergency fund. You have systems in place. You know what you're doing, what you're buying, how to present it. It's totally different. From 100 to 1 million is easier than from 0 to 100K. But I didn't understand in the beginning that it's super, super duper important for money right in the beginning. But for me, when I first started, I honestly felt hopeless. I'm like, man, how am I going to figure this out? There's all these people with these huge stores. They know what they're buying. They know what they're selling. I literally don't know anything. I remember I had puzzles because I was doing it at home. So I had one closet in the hallway and I had puzzles in there because I thought puzzles was a good niche because they're relatively cheap. They were 99 cents to $7 at Savers. And some of the puzzles were selling for over 100. So I thought, okay, this is a really good use of my tiny space. The hall closet will just be my puzzles. Then I had clothes on the floor of the garage. And then I had some golf clubs under my bed. And I was like, man, this seems really difficult. Like I got to figure out how to do this with no momentum. No one's helping me. I don't have a friend who resells. I had my friend Jake, who I've mentioned a few times, take me to breakfast and explain to me how Amazon FBA works. He's like, hey, look, if you find items that are trending on Amazon and you are not blocked from selling them, you can also send them into Amazon, do what's called Amazon fulfilled by Amazon, and they will handle the shipping for you. All you have to do is just get it to them. I didn't know that even existed. That's all brand new. And historically, the most success for resellers has happened on Amazon, not eBay. It's just that Amazon sellers are not as vocal on YouTube. So not a lot of people know that. But most resellers who end up making a living generally on Amazon. Takes a little bit longer to get started, and most people never do that uphill climb to get started. The first 100K is like almost walking straight uphill. That's why I want you guys to understand every single dollar matters in the very beginning because you're climbing uphill, really, really uphill. You need a really, really, really sharp stick to stick into the wall and pull yourself up, and you need every ounce of energy to climb. When you have 100K, it is not like climbing anymore. Honestly, it's like walking. The incline at the beginning is the steepest. That's what made me understand yesterday when I was listening to this guy. The incline at the beginning is the steepest. I wish I had known that, because then I wouldn't have felt so hopeless and like sad. Like I'm not where I want to be. But like, think about how difficult it is to climb something that's almost vertical, right? And if you are in debt and you have a bad family situation, then it's not even vertical. It's like when you see rock climbers dangling and it's reverse incline, you're about to fall off and die. That is what it looks like if you have a huge thing preventing you from doing it. It's like one of the reasons why I say, if you were to ask me what traits make people a successful reseller, I would say number one, they already have a full-time job and they've been doing it for many years. Anybody who's had a full-time job for many years can switch to reselling immediately because they already have the structure of going into a job for 8 hours a day, taking their lunch. They figured out how to dress to go to work. They figured out how to commute there and come back. They usually have some money, right? And they've usually accumulated some stuff because when you go to work, you need a car, you need clothes, you need to look a certain way. You probably buy some stuff you don't need because of your coworkers, right? So you go and you accumulate some things and you already have the work habit. The people who've had multiple jobs, like they've been an Uber driver for 3 months and their resume is like 16 jobs, it's unlikely you can do reselling because reselling is more difficult than a side gig where you just sign up for Uber, you can make money today. Reselling, you sign up today, you're not going to make money for a little while. It probably takes 1 to 2 years to build up this 500 to 2,000 item store. That's awesome. And if you have a 2,000 item store that sells 20 a day, even at $10 profit, you've made it, in my opinion, because like $200 a day profit, you're no longer climbing this really, really steep mountain. You're just walking. And if you have a mega store where you are selling more than 20 a day, like 30 a day, 40 a day, 50 a day sales, you're not even walking anymore. You're just coasting downhill. It's super easy. It's not hard to make a sale if you have 5,000 items in your store and they're all bangers. You're going to make a lot of sales without even trying because you've already built up this really, really strong snowball. But how difficult would it be to push a snowball uphill? This is probably the best analogy. You guys know when once a snowball will gain size as it rolls down a hill, right? Just because of gravity. In the beginning, you're trying to push a snowball up to the top of the hill, right? And what people are doing is they're trying to push a huge snowball uphill. That doesn't work. You can basically maybe carry a marble-sized snowball to the top of the hill. Then when you're at the top of the hill, you can just let it roll down. That's when the top of the hill is when you have probably, I would say, 6 months of savings. If you have 6 months of living expenses, you're at the top of the hill and your snowball can start rolling. Because if you don't have any savings, what happens is an emergency will happen and it will knock you off the top of the hill and you'll go back to climbing again. If that makes sense. If you get to the top of the hill and you have a little emergency fund, now you can just really let your business take over and grow. But for me, the biggest, it was totally life-changing having $100,000 in savings. Everything I was no longer in a rush. I didn't have to hurry. And then from there till now it's like completely different because you can just skip to, okay, so they say it can be easy, it can be expensive, or it can be well done. And you can pick two of those. Expensive, well done, easy, something like that. But when you have money, you can buy the expensive option that does the job right. When you don't have money, you got to figure it out on your own. You still have to do the work, but you can buy the option that does the best for you. Like, for example, if you guys were to buy a brand new Toyota Camry, the likelihood it can take you to work and back without any difficulties is like 99.9% that brand new car will last you 10 years going to work and back with regular maintenance. Very easy. But if you are just starting out and you have to buy a $2,000 hoopty, sometimes it won't get you to work. So it just makes it very difficult. So this first beginning part, I wish I knew that I need every single ounce of energy to climb. I was so wasteful in the beginning. I didn't understand how important every single dollar is. So what I ended up doing was I made bad buys. This is crazy. Now I can afford to make bad buys and I make less bad buys. Way less bad buys now. But I can afford to take an L, but I really don't want to take an L. I really want to just pick winners that are going to be okay. Like, close my eyes, I'm going to make a profit. Like, I want to buy iPhones for $5. Probably you will not lose money, right? Unless you screw it up, you won't lose money because you could just say iPhone, no idea if it works or not. Start the auction at $1. It's going to end at least $30 to $40 without you doing anything. Don't know what it is. You could even just take one picture of it. You could take one picture of it, the back of the iPhone, so people don't even know if the screen is working or not. You would still get $30 or $40 because of what it is. Like, if the camera was showing and the camera was okay, and they couldn't see any of the other part of the thing, somebody would still buy it for a profit. That's what I'm looking for. In the beginning, you have to be that careful when you are buying. And I think it's okay in the beginning. We're talking about $20 profit as a baseline for what you should purchase. In the beginning, though, any profit is okay as long as you get your money back because you're just clawing your way up this vertical incline in the very, very beginning. And I don't even think it gets easier till like 1,000 quality items. Honestly, it doesn't get easier to the point where you're not like worried about like taking a lowball offer because you need the money today to buy more inventory. I feel like that's a huge problem. I hate cheap selling stuff because I feel like I need the money. Like, that's what resellers actually thrive on. There's so many resellers out there that look for people in a desperate situation so that they can take advantage of them and get inventory for really cheap. When you grow and you get to the point where you're not struggling, you know what you're looking for? You're looking for the person that you buy from to make money so they can live another day and supply you again. Think about how different that is. Like, Brian might be at a garage sale day one of his reselling career, and he has $2 in his pocket, and he's talking to the guy, and he's like, I want this RC car for $2. That's all I have. And maybe the guy says, oh no, I need to get at least 20 for this to make sense. And he's like, well, all I have is 2. And he'll have to like scrap and do whatever to get the 2, and then he'll get it. Maybe he'll sell for $65 on eBay, get some more money. But here's the thing: Brian does that for a year. Now he has $10,000 in his bank account. He can tell that guy, 20 is fine. Can you get more next week? Or here's 25. Can you please do this for me all the time? There's a lot of shoe sellers that pay 20 and sell for 50 all day. They don't want to go source. They don't want any shoes that require cleaning, right? And they have to build up a 1,000 to 2,000 item store of shoes for that to work. That will not work at 200 of shoes. It's not enough to get that $50 amount. The sell-through rate's not high enough. So this is the part that is so different. When you have more money, everybody wins. When you have no money, you have to win. The other person can't win very much because you need that money to grow in the beginning. But I wish I knew in the beginning how important that dollar was. That's the part that I didn't understand. And I think that you see people who grow up in a horrible situation and they learn, man, every dollar really matters, right? Like listening to Dwayne Wade, the basketball player, talk about the fact he doesn't have tattoos because he's worried about getting a job. He's like worth $100 million. He's still worried about getting a job. He's like, I don't want to get a tattoo because somebody might discriminate against me. And how would I get that contract? How would I get a job? Right? That is something you can learn though, even if you grow up rich. Because people will say, like, some people are really, really, really cheap. Maybe they don't even know they're being cheap. I know people who have no idea. Like, I remember in college, this is the best example I can give, honestly. In college, I like to drink, and a popular choice was a screwdriver, which is vodka and orange juice. Okay. And my richest friend was like, we were going to the store to get supplies, and he's like, I want the cheapest possible vodka, and I don't want to use orange juice. We're going to use Tampico. And I'm like, bro, I'm not drinking with you. You can't, I'll pay for the orange juice. You can't even spring for the orange juice? Are you serious? We have to go cheap, generic orange juice and the $6 vodka. I think we're going to feel bad tomorrow. Can we just like a little bit more and get like, just pay $2 more and get the orange juice? And he's like, what's the difference? And I'm like, wow, is this what they teach you when you have money? That matters. But the thing is, in the very beginning, that does matter. That $2 when you're broke makes a big difference if you're making that $2 decision 50 times. And people say like, oh, don't buy Starbucks. It's a waste of money. It's $5. And you're like, what's the difference for $5 when I need $100,000? The thing is, in the beginning, it matters so much more. And I wish I had known that. Honestly, I was now looking back on my 20s, I was so wasteful. I didn't understand how important it is at the very, very beginning. Be wasteful later when you have $100,000 and your money makes $4,000 for you doing nothing. Then get orange juice instead of Tampico. Or you could just skip drinking altogether in the beginning and save $7, right? But I didn't understand the pros and cons in the beginning. Like Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger said, they've never seen anybody increase their performance from doing drugs. Like the exception to the rule would be like, maybe you're an artist or a musician, and if you have a horrible drug addiction and then a relapse and then horrible relationships, then your songs become really good. And like, you'll see the memes on Instagram saying like, I really need Taylor Swift to make some really good music. So I hope she breaks up with her boyfriend and it's a horrible situation. He cheats on her and steals half of her money. And she finds out her parents stole all of her money and she's broke. That next album is going to be fire. That's what people are like looking for. But the thing is, we are not writing hit songs here. So we don't need that kind of anguish. Maybe we just take it easy and just think about every dollar being important in the beginning. And it's an uphill climb right in the beginning. Then we can coast. I just didn't understand that. I always thought like, oh man, saving sucks so bad. I don't want to save. I want to, YOLO, you only live once. Who knows if we're going to be here tomorrow? And now I think it's a little bit different. I don't think that's the right way to look at it. I think the right way to look at it is we're climbing this reseller mountain, which I've told you guys should be about 3 times your income. Whatever your income is, let's shoot for 3 times that as your reseller mountain. We're climbing this reseller mountain. It's really, really, really steep at the beginning. That's what I want. Right? Value is such a different thing to teach. Jamie in the chat is saying people with money understand the value of money. This is true. This is why buying a $50,000 car for $30,000 is good value. Might be expensive. Most people don't have $30,000, but the value is there. Value is what you do when you purchase things to determine if it's a good buy or not. You're looking to see if you can get the value out of it, right? If you're in this group, what would make it valuable enough to pay $1 a day, in my opinion, is that you learn enough to make $10 a day. Should be one idea in here that you guys can make $10 a day more. That's not a lot. That's like one thing more you can pick up that you know from being in the call. If you come to 5 calls and learn one thing, you should be able to make $10 more. Every time people present something, I'm thinking about one thing that they say that might improve what I'm doing. That's why yesterday I listened to like 10 minutes of podcast on a drive. And I was like, dude, this guy's explanation of the first 100K makes so much sense to me because the money matters more in the beginning. The money matters more in the beginning of your saving for your 401k than it does at the end. This is how crazy it is. If you work a regular job, the 401k contribution is like $20,000 a year. When you work for yourself, most entrepreneurs are 50 years old. Maybe everybody should definitely write this down if you didn't know that. The average entrepreneur is 50 years old. If you're 50 and you're just starting to save for retirement, you are behind. Can everybody here agree with that? If you're 50 years old and you just barely started saving money, you are behind. So the government has what's called a SEP IRA, and they allow you to contribute $67,000 a year to your retirement, which is a giant chunk of money. That's a huge amount of money that you can contribute every year because you're behind. The thing is, you would much rather have contributed $10,000 when you're 21 years old than $67,000 when you're 50 years old. It's like the effort is a lot less for the return. So in the beginning, that $1 is worth a lot more than later in your career. And I don't know how to teach that to kids so that they can understand what you do right now is more impactful than what you do later because it compounds. The podcast was Humphrey. It's an Asian guy. I forgot his last name. It might be Humphrey Yang. But if you Google him, his money advice is really solid because it's based on the first, he's definitely a multimillionaire, but the first 100K is the hardest part to save. And he talks about the first $100,000 might take you 10 years to save, right? But once you're a millionaire, you make $100,000 in just a few months if you have everything set up. So the first time it took you 10 years to make $100,000. By the time you're a multimillionaire, it only takes you a few months to make $100,000. I'm trying to make $100,000 every month. It took me forever to do it the first time. It took me 7 years the first time to save that much. Now, 7 years versus 1 month. I'm like living proof of that. It's so different in the beginning. And I would say 100% the first 7 years was harder than now. So much harder. It's ridiculously hard. Don't know how to do anything. Don't know, literally somebody would say something that would blow my mind because that's how I didn't even know that even existed. Yesterday, I met a local buyer. Okay, so she's a jobber. You guys, a jobber is a person that handles the goods for a company um, after they get returned or after they get they don't sell at the store. So this is crazy to me. Listen to this, guys. 20% of all online sales in 2023 were returned. 20%. Do you guys realize how insane that is? Amazon has like a million sales a second. So that means like there's 200,000 returns a second. That's how much stuff is out there. Right. And yesterday I met with a local buyer. She's like, Chris, I saw you on Whatnot. Do you want to buy from me? I'm going to bring 500 pieces for you to look at. And MSRP is 100 and I want $5 a piece. She came, I looked at it and I'm like, okay, this is a deal. And I was like, but more importantly, are you making money at this so that you could do this again? And she said, yes, I'm buying between $3 and $5. I'm going to sell to you for between $3 and $5. I'm going to try to make between 10 cents and 25 cents per unit times thousands of units to supply you. And I was like, okay, that's cool. How do you get your goods? And she said, oh, I go to these 12, what are those called? Not conferences. What's it called when you go to a giant building? It's not a conference. It's these events that you go to. Convention. Thank you. She goes to these conventions, and she has a booth, and she also goes to the other booths and meets all the vendors and makes connections and says like, hey, what happens to your stock when it doesn't sell? Right? Or what do you do with returns? So she's been doing that for like 10, 20 years. And here there's a local store called True. I don't know if you guys have heard of this streetwear brand. It's called True. I think it's nationwide. A lot of people have heard of it. Anyway, I met this lady. I was like, hey, I asked a couple of questions. I said, where do you get them? She said she gets them from conferences. I said, number two, do you know anybody else who has this problem? And she said, sure. I'm going to introduce you to the owner of True. He has 5 truckloads of overstock that he can't sell. And he would probably do the same price for you or something like that. I'm like, okay, got his phone number. And I'm like, dude, can you even imagine when I was first starting, it took me like a week to find something that's a $5 profit. And now I can buy a truckload of $20 profit items. That's so ridiculous. Literally a truck full from can't find one in a week to 20,000 of them in 2 minutes. And it's coming to me. I'm not even out there looking anymore because just the momentum is built. And so now the snowball is much bigger. So now when your snowball is rolling downhill, all you have to do is not screw it up. It's different than in the beginning where you have to think of every possible way to make it work. Then when you get to the point where it's rolling downhill, all you have to do is just make sure it doesn't hit a tree and explode. You just have to aim your snowball to hit as few trees as possible on the way down. Then it gets so big that trees don't even affect it. Like a tree comes up, it's like just squishes the tree and continues. There's no snowball's fine. Or maybe a piece of it breaks off, but like 20 feet down, it's repaired again because there's just so much momentum on the snowball. So in the beginning, though, you have to build your snowball up from water, from nothing, from a snowflake. And it's really, really, really hard. And I wish that in the beginning, the advice on Instagram is actually the opposite of what you need to hear. Imagine if every single influencer said, it just takes a couple of years of grinding to get it going. Then after that, it's easy. I don't think I've ever heard that. I hear consistency wins the game. Sure, of course, that sounds great. Okay, so here's another point of the story. Yesterday, when I met the lady in person, I bought her stock. She told me she goes to conventions full time all year looking for stock. And she was rattling off all these names of conventions. I had not heard of one of them. I was like, oh my God, there's all these places you can go to get returns. And she's like, yeah, all year you can go get stuff like this. $100 MSRP for $5. That exists year round everywhere. But If I just told you, right, I just told you guys 20% of all things that are purchased online are returned. If that doesn't blow your mind, I don't know what that means. We're looking at Topher's backdrop right there. There's like 20 boxes. That means 4 of those are going to be returns. End up back at Goodwill or end up at wherever. So think about how much stuff is out there. You could full time be a buyer for somebody, no problem. That job exists. It's one of the oldest jobs in the world. What happens to things that don't sell? And there's a company called Liquidity Services. I don't know if you guys heard of the company Liquidity Services. Online, they're known as liquidation.com, which more people know about, right? Did you guys know they're publicly traded? That's how big they are. They're publicly traded. That's how big this liquidation business is. It's absolutely insane. So part of liquidation is donation. And I'm just thinking here right now, how many millions of people listening are making a full-time living from stuff that gets returned or people don't use anymore? Marcia says she has a friend who says the world already has all the stuff everyone needs, just in the wrong home. I agree. I'm using this hell no and yes strategy for my clothing. And it's been pretty easy recently. If it's not a hell yeah, then I'm not going to wear it anymore. I'm going to donate it. I only want hell yeah clothing. This $5 Old Navy shirt is a hell yeah. I love this shirt. I'm going to keep it forever. I've been wearing this shirt for like 8 years and it looks exactly the same. I don't know what happened to Old Navy Active back in the day, but it's like as good as Lululemon for $5. But I'm just thinking right now, I totally underestimated how difficult it was in the beginning to save that first money to get it going. And then I would like go out to eat in my 20s. And now I'm thinking, why? If I had just waited, I could have had steak dinner every day. I could just wait a few years to let that grow a little bit. I just didn't understand. It's the machine. Right now, we're building up a machine for reselling. 1,000 to 2,000 amazing items is a long ways away from most people, but that is what it takes to never worry about money again. Because if you have a 1 to 2,000 item store, all you have to do is maintain it. That's it. It will print you money as long as you're open. Lauren's saying ruthless elimination. If it's not a hell yes, it's a no. It's just been really helping me. Like, for example, if you were to say, do you want to go get Whataburger with Brian? I would say, hell yes, that's worth it to me. Like to go, like that's worth taking a break to go, right? But there's a neighbor that likes to hang out with us. She's not a hell yes. She's okay. She's like if I have nothing better to do, I go on a walk with her and her, like, but she's not a hell yeah. I have friends that are a hell yeah. I would go hang out with them. Like Matt came to visit me. That's a hell yeah to me. I would definitely take a few hours out of my day and hang out with him. Totally worth it, right? But for all these little average things, like I think a good example is social media. If I am looking for something, social media is the greatest tool in the world. You can type in, how do I save $100,000? And there's like 19 people who have a step-by-step instruction how to do it. There's like 500 million videos on how to save money. All of them, right? There's people who, Francis, I consider him a friend, beat the bush on YouTube. He knows how much money it costs to flush his toilet. Do you guys know? I have no idea. Can you imagine, your finances down to like, what everything in your day costs? He's like, all I have to do is get 3 solar panels and then use this electronic over here twice, this camera, this computer, and I don't have to pay any solar. I mean, my solar covers my house bill for 1 panel. And then over time, he got enough panels to where the electric company is paying him. Right. And then he figured out how to do something for his HOA to get his HOA for free. So he lives in California for $20,000 a year. And when I met him, he drove a Porsche that he paid like $13,000 for cash and fixed. Like this dude is like, he saved like $2 million by the time he was 30, drives a nice car, and lives on $20,000 a year in California. That exists on YouTube, right? You could just, how does that even possible? I saw the video and I watched 19 of his videos in a row to figure out how to save money, right? And then I know he even makes $20,000 a month off YouTube. He's got all of the things, but you can learn that on YouTube for free. But if you go to YouTube and you don't know what you're looking for, you're going to be watching garbage for hours and hours and hours, right? If you don't know what you're looking for, YouTube is just going to recommend the most ridiculous stuff to you to make you stick on your phone all day. Who has watched YouTube for like an hour and you have no idea what part of the internet you are in? You're watching somebody like make noodles from scratch, or you're watching a documentary on ants. That will happen if you don't know what you're doing on YouTube. It will just leave you to all these random places on the internet, but it's also the most valuable tool ever for learning a skill. There's a book called Hell Yes or No that I got it from, the saying, but I just think it's an easier way to live life because there's so many things that you can do. Do I want to sell items, thousands of items, that I have to handpick myself and clean for $1 a piece? No. But if I have to go out there and hand pick items one by one, they have to be amazing. But if I'm going to make a large purchase and I'm going to just go on the value of the lot, so I'm buying something for $5,000, I think is worth 20, and after fees, I double my money. That's different than buying one item for $10 and selling it for 15. That doesn't work. There's not enough hours in the day to do it that way. But in the beginning, you just got to claw this first 100K, this almost straight uphill battle in the beginning. Just got to be patient and understand the secret is just saving every dollar you can right in the very, very, very beginning. And without that plan, actually, it's just the part that is the most interesting is the I don't know. I feel like I was allergic to saving money in the beginning. I just felt like I just didn't understand the value of money, as Jamie said. I did not get it. I did not understand that $1 is so much money in the beginning. Brian says compound interest is the eighth wonder. I mean, just thinking about buying one item and then buying two items, and then buying four items, and then buying 8 items in the beginning until you have 1,000 to 2,000 great items. And in the stock market, all you're doing is buying the top 500 stocks in an index fund. And then when you're buying a car, you just buy a car that has a good reliability report. When you find a partner, you just find somebody that has the attributes you're looking for. Just the more you plan the very, very beginning, the more different your landscape is. So different. I was just talking to one of my workers about retirement. She's like, my lifestyle is pretty minimal. So she lives in California too, on about $3,000 a month. So her plan is just to make enough money working for me and start saving so that one day when she's done working, she can just maintain this $3,000 a month lifestyle. And I think it's so cool that she's looking at it a more long-term. It's a couple things that are really good. She already knows the lifestyle that she wants and how much it costs. And then she's thinking about doing that forever. And so right now, she makes more money than she spends right now working for me. She can put the extra money into something that grows. So I have one more thing to share with you guys I think is interesting. I've been doing I've been going to a personal trainer for the last year, and I just did a DEXA scan yesterday. So I'm up 11 pounds of muscle from last year at the same time. And I've gained 13 pounds in the last year. And also I have not been worried about losing weight because I just had a baby a year ago. Henry's almost a year old now. So in the first year, men generally gain weight too because of cortisol. When you're the first year of having a child, it's very stressful, right? So I wasn't worried about losing weight, but I did work out the entire year. So a year later, here I am. I gained 11 pounds of muscle, which is almost 1 pound per month. And this is an interesting thing. There's this thing called maintenance for calories. If you eat a certain amount of calories, you stay the same weight. Hopefully that makes sense for everybody. If you eat more than that, you gain weight. Less than that, you lose weight. When you are reselling, the most important part is to always be above your maintenance level. Always. Because then your store is always growing. Does that make sense, guys? All you have to do is make sure that that maintenance level for you, for Autumn, it might be, she has 6 sales a day. So for her, maintenance is 6 sales a day, 6 listings a day. But for her, all she needs to do is be at 7 until she gets to 7, and then go to 8 and stay 8 until she gets to 9, and keep moving up above maintenance. And over the course of a year, you'll be up a lot. Maintenance is the part that people don't do. So maintenance is really, 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 really important. It's the baseline that you have for determining how to improve. Everybody has to have a baseline. In the fitness world, it's called maintenance. There's a lot of arguments for macros, where it's like, doesn't matter what you eat. And there's also the argument that the quality of the calories matters. There's actually a lot of different camps. Some people think calories don't matter. Some people think calories, the type of calories are the most important. With reselling, honestly, it's both. It's everything, because you can't just have more items in your store and they're all garbage, right? But you also can't have great items that are priced too high. You have to have items that will sell, right? And sometimes items that will sell are not that great, but they're priced right. Average items require more promotion. Judith says, food is fuel. Use the fuel to make something happen. I agree with that. I think that your store's fuel is just the items that are in it. And we'll just do 1,000 good items in your store that sell for at least $10 profit and 1% sell-through rate. That's the very, very, very baseline. If you can do better than that, which people are not listening right now to just do the average. So like better would be 1,000 items in your store that are $20 profit. That's the first 100K that we're talking about. That's an insane amount of revenue that produces. Jamie, go ahead.
Chris, I think the analogy you made about the fuel we put into our body and how we take care of our body crosses over to our eBay stores or any stores, any businesses. But I'm a huge proponent. I've always taken very good care of myself my whole life. And I do believe that you brought up the argument between people that say it doesn't matter what you eat. But nobody in the world could tell me that if I eat 5 pounds of Peeps a day or Oreos, that it's the same of eating 5 pounds of steak a day. I think it's the quality. And just like our eBay stores, like you mentioned, if we, listed 10 packs of sugar a day compared to 10 steaks a day, they both have different values in society. So if they're priced competitively in their own area, then you're obviously never going to sell sugar, but you're going to sell way more quality products. The steak, you're going to sell way more of it. And that's just how, that's how you take care of your body. The better stuff you put into your body, the better you get out. Just the same as your store. The better you put into your store, the better you get out.
Jamie, I have a good analogy for you on this. So do you guys know Richard Simmons, the famous fitness guru? Everybody heard of him? Did you guys know he's famous for losing weight, having water and vitamins? So he just, for a little while, only drank water and only ate vitamins, didn't have any calories, right? And obviously, you're going to lose weight. There's no calories. You're going to lose a ridiculous amount of weight. It's really unhealthy, but you could not die probably for a little bit, for a few days if you only had vitamins and water. That is the reason why people say the type of calories don't matter. Because if you ate one Oreo, you would still lose weight. If you only ate one Oreo, everyone here would lose a lot of weight, but that's not healthy, right? And if you ate 2 steaks, let's say you ate 20 steaks, even though steak is maybe more healthy, you would still gain weight because that's too many calories. That's the idea behind that. So I have a really good example for reselling. You guys should look up the brand Cider, Cider. Okay, it is a mega brand. It's like Shein and Fashion Nova, Who What Wear, Zara, H&M. It's a mega brand. It's called Cider, Cider. So the average sale price is $9 for this brand, right? That's for them. If you're trying to resell it, it might be like $2. It's freaking bad. It's really, really, really low, right? But if you listed 10,000 cider items and you made 40 cents an item and you put it at $7 free shipping, you might still be a millionaire, even though those items are really, really low quality. Like you're not even making $1 profit per item. Very, very low quality item, but the volume can outpace it. But for most people listening right now, it's easier to go find some J. Crew, which is like very common and still profitable if you find the right J. Crew pieces. That's like the mid ground. That's like the broccoli and tofu of reselling. Broccoli, we'll call it broccoli and chicken breast. The broccoli and chicken breast and rice of reselling is the bread and butter mall brands that you can find for any category, not just clothing. It'd be like anything that you can find at the mall, hard goods, because clothing is only half the mall. The other half of the mall is hard goods. You can make money with those. And the home runs are usually things that are a little bit more obscure or require more knowledge. Like there are certain J. Crew pieces that sell for over 100. There's certain Banana Republic things that sell for over 100. Brookstone sells that cheap electronic garbage. There's still pieces that you can thrift that were seen on TV that are still worth $50 to $100, even though they're pre-owned for $5 at Goodwill. That still exists, but requires more knowledge. So you can make a living selling junky items for a small profit, and you can lose weight eating a bad diet, but it's not recommended. Autumn?
We did this yesterday. We did a deep dive on Karen Scott and Coldwater Creek, and we were all shocked at the outliers in those brands. Shocked. We did Karen Scott and Coldwater Creek and one other like obscure, non-profitable seemingly brand, but we were all shocked. It was pretty incredible. It was a fun call. We did like obscure deep dive. Alfani, that is what it was. Thank you, Becky. Found some really incredible pieces in these brands that are selling for $60, $70, $80. We were like, wow. It was really, it was like Coldwater Creek really shocked me because it's like, it was kind of for Becky because she has these, you know, she lives in a place where she can't find maybe huckberry items or, you know, the items you can sell in the Real or whatever, the really high priced items. So it was really fun thanks, Jamie. That's a real nice compliment coming from you. It was just fun to see these. I hadn't ever done a deep dive on Coldwater Creek, and it just really shocked me that you could still find profitable items in these brands that seem like they're nothing. You know, I know 100%. J. Crew has outliers, but I didn't know Coldwater Creek did.
Well, okay. I'm going to use this example for Bruce just put in the chat that reach your protein goal within your calories, and then you can eat whatever you want up to that. So this is a really good analogy that I'm going to tie to what you just said, Autumn. So there's these bread and butter items that people need to resell to meet their metric. Everybody here has some kind of an idea of like they want to do 10 items that are $20 profit, or 5 items that are $20 profit, or 7 items that are $10 profit. Let's consider that the protein of your diet. Okay. So once you have that done, you can kind of eat whatever you want to a certain degree. So what Bruce is saying, where you eat whatever you want up to the calories that you have left, this means that in the reselling analogy, you would do your meat and potatoes that get you to, or meat in this example, to where you need to be to meet your profit goal. And whatever you have left with your time, you can list whatever you want after, right? And of course, there's different ways to approach diet, and this isn't a diet conversation, but the whole point of today's conversation is there are these important things that you need to do first, like you need to save a year's worth of savings. And I wish that someone had told me this is like the most important goal of your entire life, because everything becomes so much easier after that. And literally, when you have a big snowball, okay, this is the analogy that I think is making the most sense to me in my head right now. 0 to 1,000 good items in your store, really, really hard. 1,000 to 2,000, way less hard. Way less hard. The first 1,000 items that are good in your store, some people never even get there. But that's like mind blowing if you can get to that point. You literally have a money making machine. No one cannot take you seriously because you're making $200 a day profit. And you can just tell them to shut up. You don't have to listen to them. You don't have to pick up their phone call. Who cares what they think? Jamie?
All right, I'm going to go back to the food 1 second here. Understanding what food does to your body and what you put into your body, and I'm going to work this into eBay, is very important, because you can't just say that you can like eat this portion of your good stuff and then have crap, or you can just eat crap all the time and be under your calories, because it's a lot more, there's a lot more involved in it. So depending on the combination of foods you eat and the times and the time frame that you eat them together or don't eat them together, you know, for instance, your liver, because you eat different things together or have different things in the same time frame, it can decide if it's going to turn into glucose, insulin, you know. So your body, like if you drink a big pop or like a 2-liter of pop or something all day, and then you have some good food, all that extra sugar in your system is going to make your body process the good food differently and do different damages or improvements to parts of your body. Now, I think that translates into what we're talking about as far as online selling, because if you meet your list, let's say you meet your listing goal and you list 10 great items a day, but then you're also later in the day, you're going back and you're listing some crap, or maybe you're adjusting stuff to be a little deceitful to get your stuff to sell faster. That's kind of the same way of how you're treating your body, you know, when you're eating those bad foods. When you're putting a little bit extra of the bad stuff into your eBay store, over the long term, it will do damage.
I have a perfect example for you. I just bought I just bought up a truckload of stuff from Neiman Marcus. Okay. And there's probably like 80% is the normal stuff that I sell. It's like healthy vegetables and lean proteins, protein and vegetables, good stuff for your body, right? But then there's like 10% stuff that's like luxurious ice cream. It's like ice cream and fried pickles. It's like kind of exotic. And I'll give you some examples. I got some Barabee blankets. So these blankets sell for between $200 and $500 retail. They're weighted blankets. I didn't know that much about weighted blankets, but I have at least 100 of them. And this is something that totally jacks up my store. Okay, I'll tell you why. Everything in my store is 5 pounds or less, right? These blankets are 15 to 30 pounds. They're ridiculously heavy, okay? And I tried every single one of them trying to figure out if it reduces your anxiety. And I don't think it reduces your anxiety at all. I don't understand how these work. And here's the thing. I think a lot of people also don't know how it works. That's why there's so many returns. Like, how many weighted blankets can you really sell? And they had 100 returns in just this small store. Okay, so go ahead.
It's the marketing. I know this from experience. My son has cerebral palsy. Weighted blankets were actually developed for people with like high tone and different motor skills. And for people with disabilities, the weighted blankets are like a godsend. So maybe you should market those into that market. Maybe,
but my point is, this is what I consider a donut, because like it's really satisfying because they sell for about $70, right? Which is a really nice ASP for an item. but it's a lot of work. They're hard to store. They collect a lot of dust. There's probably a really high return rate, but it's quote unquote fun. I didn't buy them for fun. They just came with the lot. I'm just saying that it can jack up your store over time. If you pick up a couple of awkward, big, bulky items every time you go thrifting, over the course of a year, you now have fatty liver reselling disease. Your store is full of all this junk that it's hard to move. Okay, like you can't be picking up one weighted blanket every time you go out because you're going to be messed up. If you can just like once a year, sure, eat that birthday cake, the whole thing. But don't always do that. It's just better. It's just like, even though it sounds crazy, it would have been better for me to just donate these 100 blankets than try and sell them, because it's so messes up everything. I'm not set up to ship it. I'm not set up to show it. And I'm not set up to store it. They just came with this lot, and weighted blankets are insanely expensive, and they probably have a 90% return rate. That would be my guess. Just get from the outside, I would guess that 10 people buy a weighted blanket, one person it works, the other 9 people are like, I do not want this in my house. It's so heavy, it's so big, it's really hard to clean, right? I honestly think it's like the way it was marketed is for Neiman Marcus was definitely not towards kids with disabilities. It's like a luxury for rich people. That's what it was advertised as. I honestly think I have to go. All right, guys. Everybody have a wonderful day. We'll talk to you guys later.